Welcome to Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Today we're Abuse Advocates United. I want to welcome Tamara for coming in, and hello, who else is in here as well? Feel free to, if you want to come up in the box and chat as well. Um, we'll we'll let you. So, how are you doing today, Tamara?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Yeah, today is a beautiful day here in Michigan. How are you? Thank you for
I'm doing
asking.
great, thank you. I am not a morning person.
Oh, see, it's almost getting into late afternoon for me because I usually wake around 2 o'clock.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Whoever's in here, please say hello so we can acknowledge you if you feel like chatting. If you want to come up in the box, let us know as well. Because we're having a discussion about child abuse. And we were talking about some facts, how discipline, how when we were growing up, we could not be seen. Wake up. Hi, Eric. Would you like to come up in the box? He said, wake up, darling. Good morning to you.
Hello, Eric.
Yeah, he's a good friend too. He's a friend with Charles Rogers, and somebody left. I don't know who did. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're great. Fine. You,
Yes.
you see him? Can you see his words right there?
Yeah, I did. So I'm
Yeah.
fine and hello. Hello, Eric.
See, there's no need for you to sign into YouTube. See how? Because it's already showing up. Because it's
It's
basically going to my YouTube stream, and so basically, when it wanted you to sign into the YouTube, it was trying to get you to where you would do your live into YouTube.
oh, okay.
You still here? I'm glad you're still here, Eric. So when we talk about child abuse, there's so many forms of child abuse. There's neglect. And you're seeing so many kids today that the people are starving and neglected, and they think that a kid is so resilient. And yeah, kids are resilient, but you got to give their basic needs, the food, the water. You got to hold them. You got to cuddle them. You got to talk to them. You got to nurture them so they can grow emotionally and health wise. So many things changing them and stuff. Don't just lay a baby in the bed after you change it and just pick it up whenever they cry to be fed or something like that. You are to nurture and hold it, cherish it and treat it.
And I remember now looking back um, on my younger life, right? Of all
Yeah.
the times and all the things that I heard, you know, don't carry him, he's too big, make him do it himself. Don't let her cry it out in her crib, 6 months old. She needs to learn how to to take care of her own needs when she's crying. And to always remember like questioning that, whether or not that is something that I even agreed with. But I did it because that's the only thing I knew. As a
Okay.
child, I was blanket trained and high chair trained, and my children were as well. And looking back, I realized that how wrong that was, and how much damage it did to me. Luckily,
Right.
whenever I finally was able to escape and get away from um, the cults that I was raised in and started doing things differently, it really took a lot of work to make sure that I did not fall into the old patterns that I had been taught, because it's much easier to, slap a kid,
Interesting.
backhand him, do whatever you want to do, mistreat him, misuse him, abuse him, even if it's through labor, even if it's, making your children work from morning to night without going out and playing. Those
I'm dropping the
subtle,
link if somebody wants to come up. Yeah, you're right. I am so proud of you for doing that. Being able to fight, against.
and it
Yeah,
was just me and it was just me fighting for my three children at that time, right? And then I went silent for 20 years and I just lived my life differently. When my children would do something wrong, preteen and teen, I would make sure I go into public, to a restaurant, to McDonald's, to talk to them about their behaviors and what happened, right? But it
right.
kept me from going back to my old ways.
That is wonderful.
So I
Uh,
had to put things in place because it became so
uh,
easy for me to discipline harshly when really what they needed was a hug and some time with their mama in public.
I noticed when my first child was born, I knew that this other lady, had more experience than me, and I had known her since I was 10 years old from church, right?
Hmm.
And she kept coming over just about every day. And she, at this time, my son was a toddler, right? And is walking around and stuff. And you need to spank him about that. You need to spank him about that. Every little thing he did.
Hmm.
And well, he could have been younger than that. I think 5, 6, 7, 8 months. When they're walking around still holding on to things. And but he did learn how to walk pretty soon, pretty quickly. Um, you notice the first child, they seem to get her. Mine really started things quickly. Both my kids, and she it's like every few minutes she's like, "You need to whoop him for that. You need to whoop him. He don't need to do that." And I just one time I blatantly said, "Stop telling me to spank him. That's not the answer. He's got to realize that it's not good, you know, for you to be touching this percent thing. How about childproofing a little bit? How about me moving some of the things off the table? Because as a first mom, I didn't realize I need to put things up higher away from the kids, such as that.
Hmm.
Um, but no, it's not. You don't go and spank your kid every few seconds when they touch something that they shouldn't be touched. You just teach them no, no. You don't go like this and constantly spank them. And I just got so mad at her, and I told her, "I'm the mom. Let me discipline him how he should be, and it's really okay." Hey, Eric, I got to add the stage. Good morning, Carlene. Good morning, Chris Miller. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, everybody. I realize now, looking back, being raised in a high controlled religion, I refer to it as a cult, that if we didn't blanket train our babies and we believed in discipline from 6 months old and up, the other women in the church were allowed to come and help you discipline your babies. So I
Oh my
always wound
goodness.
up wanting to make sure that, I got to my babies first, right? Because I didn't trust anybody
Exactly.
else. And I didn't know, I didn't know it was abuse. I just thought it was discipline. I just knew I didn't like it and it didn't feel right. But the church I was raised in said you break a child's will from birth to 5, and then you have a child that'll stay in the church the rest of its life. And when I got older and I
Oh,
realized what that statement meant,
oh man, that's spiritual abuse if you've never heard of it. You don't break a child's will. I mean, you are to bring up the child in the ways of the Lord, and that's when you're not supposed to turn away from it, right?
right? But they believed
That's
in
what the Bible
raising.
says.
Right, and they believed in that they were raising soldiers for Jesus, that you break a child's will
Hi,
and you raise a soldier for Jesus.
hi,
And
Jonah.
hi, Jonah. And it
And there's Carlene here too.
uh, I said hi.
They're in
Hi,
Facebook,
Carlene.
and then Chris Miller's here.
I see that. Hi, guys. Thank you for having me. So I
Y'all got
realized
anything
when it
y'all
came
want
to
to add to
discipline,
the conversation? Feel free and put it up where people can see. So
I'm getting comfortable with all of it. So I
yeah, yeah. I really
it's
believe you
cool.
said you're working on possibly having a book on your life, and sometime I like to have you in here and just do an interview strictly with you. What all you want to divulge and everything. I yeah, you all about you. And you're free to talk about what you want to and all this other kind of stuff. And people get to know you and support you. And then when your book's out there, they'll know you and they'll possibly want to support you in that too.
Thank you. That is very kind. Thank you. Because I realized that they bought my silence for 20 years of my life. They knew when I left the church that wouldn't speak out. I didn't start speaking out about what happened to me as a child until 5 years ago. I was in my 50s before I even started saying the words out loud. I could not bring myself because not only was I raised that way, there was a portion of my life that I allowed my children to be raised that way. So there was
Yeah.
this conflict and constantly of feeling guilt because I know how I raised my children. Now I changed that when they were young and I left and escaped. But the amount of damage that it did to me, I can only imagine what my babies have had to go through trying to process
Yeah.
their life before, you know, 6 years old.
I mean, how are kids going to really learn unless they make the mistakes? Like, I let my kids make the mistakes when they touch, but then I no, I'm not going to go right there. And I can remember they already had me conditioned as a kid where I couldn't cry or,
Hmm.
I was told that even as an infant, I was abandoned along with my other siblings for weeks at a time. And there I was supposed to be bottle fed and everything, and I was fed clabbered milk. No wonder I have a digestion with milk problem today because of that as a baby. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So a lot of this thing stems, and I can remember being 11 years old and living in Florida, and it's like this is the first time, just because my mom worked and all, I was able to sit there and think sometimes. And when I was with my dad, it was like he was mind control, it's control. You couldn't do things on your own and all this other kind of stuff, right? So anyway, I was just standing there, and all of a sudden I said, when I have a kid, I was already thinking about when I was 11 years old. When I have a kid, I am going to treat them like they matter. I
Hmm.
am going to sit down with them. I am going to let them have their voice. I'm going to hug them, kiss their boo boos. I'm not going to say, oh, you're okay, and just wipe it off, whatever. I'm not
Like,
going to do nothing like that. I am going to, treat them and show them that you come to me with any kind of problem that you have. I want them to come to me. I don't want them afraid to come to me. You know what I'm saying?
and it's really important today, if we don't do anything else, is not teach our children what to think, but teach them how to think. And make sure
Exactly.
that we give them language and words and expressions and expressive words to be able to clearly calm their own nervous system down and self regulate, but also be able to express to me or to safe people that they don't feel safe at the moment or there's something going on and they're not quite sure within their little bodies. They don't understand anxiety or feeling like scared of things. So I believe what we truly have started doing but haven't done with maybe my generation and behind me is make sure that we had language to articulate our feelings, our thoughts, and to be able to express what's going on in our life and in our day.
Exactly. And with my kids, I had the threat, my stepmom, uh, people know the story that she killed my first son, you know,
Oh, no.
um, and with the threat of her saying that she's going to do the same thing to my oldest son, the next son I have with my marriage, right? And so, because I kicked her out of my house, and I was worried, I was scared and everything. And one Christmas, or his birthday one, he got a little glow in the dark watch. Okay, because there's learning how to tell time. It was so he had to look at the hands and stuff and tell time that way. I didn't want him to have one of those digitals because the importance of learning to tell time was, being able to read a clock was important to me. Okay, not just being told the numbers. But anyway, I had it on video recording, and he goes, "Oh, it glows in the dark. So you mean when I'm walking through the barn lot, it's going to light it all up where I'll be safe and it'll be like a flashlight?" And I said, "No." And he looked disappointed and everything. Years later, my son's wife said, "That was cruel to him for saying no, it won't light up the whole place where he can see." I said, "I wasn't going to lie to him. I wasn't
Right.
gonna lie to him and say it's like a flashlight where you could really see out there really good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I want my son to be prepared when he's walking from his grandmother's, because all that was divided between our house and his house was a little barn lot, and the family owned all that. Okay, so I would let them go walking back and forth like that. Okay, so I had to tell him, "No, I'm sorry," but but she jumped my case real big because she said, "Look how you hurt his feelings." I'm like, "But honesty, I
Right.
wasn't gonna lie to him."
Exactly. I think sometimes when we're just talking, um, I have noticed with myself, I'll just speak for myself, that I'll respond and my response isn't like sugar coated, or it's not with those like the word like and it's like,
Uh-huh.
well, just a little or just some, or and we always minimize what actually is going on by the words that we put in front of our expressive words. I'm a little angry, I'm kind of upset, I'm not very happy today. Instead of saying I'm angry, I'm
Right,
upset,
exactly.
I'm not happy, or I am happy. We always say, well, I kind of feel happy today. No, we don't kind of. We feel happy. And I think it's really important for us to, as females, to take those minimizing words out of our language and make sure that we teach our daughters and our sons not to use the minimizing words or the maximum type of words, or that was a great show, right? We put these like little adjectives in front of everything and say what it is. What did you like about this show? How did you like the show? What part was your favorite part? But I think as parents, a lot of times that we're lazy. It is much
Yes.
easier to pick up the belt or to say it was good enough for me, it's good enough for you. Or if it was good enough for my grandpa, it's good enough for me as a mom. And that is not true. That is one of the falsehoods, Darlene, that I have always spoken out about. Just because my parents did it, just because my grandparents did it, just because my aunts and uncles do this, does not mean that it's right and does not mean that I should carry on those traditions.
Yeah, that one time my son, um, we had a birthday party going on, and he was mad at somebody. And my husband always kept shotguns in the closets right there, and the kids usually never mess with that closet. Okay.
Hmm.
All of a sudden, I see my son trying to go outside with a shotgun. It was either shotgun or rifle, can't remember which one. And I go, "Ho, ho, 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 hold on. No, 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 right?" Um, and I stopped him and I got the gun away from him and everything. And I was like, "Hold on, calm down, calm down, calm down." I mean, the old me,
Hmm.
well, I wouldn't have never, hit him around like that or something. But here's the old things thinking, like, how am I going to discipline him? How am I going to, what am I going to do? You're right. So that y'all might not have disciplined the same way, but I ended up calling the sheriff saying, "Can you help me figure out how to discipline him about this?" I really
Right.
don't know. I said, he needs to know the danger that he could go to jail for messing with a gun or threatening somebody with a gun. So I'm going to showing my son that I'm going to call the police if you go and do this illegal activity, right?
Hmm.
So by me calling the police, so the sheriff actually talked to him and everything. And I said, "Well, what did the sheriff say to you He said, the sheriff told me to take my punishment and for me, you to get a belt and you to whip me, and said that if I didn't take the punishment, he was going to come over there himself and hold him down while I belted him. I got up, of course, we done hung up by then, and I'm thinking, son, I'll deal with the punishment after guests leave. Okay, the other people are still outside. This was not in front of all these guests. They didn't know what had took place. I was trying to handle this, and calm down about the anger that my son was feeling, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him that that is so wrong. I said, you could go, I think I did tell him to go calm down somewhere. And when he gets feeling better, he's welcome to go outside and play nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do anything out of anger and all this kind of stuff. And then I thought, well, I'll discipline him later. But already he was being disciplined, I think. Talking to that sheriff, we got threatened and me telling him. And but the bad
Right.
thing about me is I do a list of done me wrong. So when he's bad again, I say, don't and I bring up this other thing again. It's like, don't you dare.
Right. Right. Right.
So that, and I decided that the worst punishment that my kids hated worse than even being spanked for the corner was sitting down and talking to them.
Oh, yes. I mean, that's
They
why I took them to.
hated, hey, Sandra, good to see you. They hated all that.
Mhm. They do. That's
Oh,
why
you
I
you
wound
wrote in
up
the
taking them.
you wrote in the to personal chat again when the comments when you said good morning to everyone, so everybody couldn't see the good morning.
Oh, they couldn't see the
um,
good morning.
no, because you wrote in private chat to me, a private message to me.
Oh, it won't let me comment.
I guess that's where the comment thing is. But at least you can voice it and say, "Oh, hi,
Exactly.
Sandra. Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Sandra.
good
That's
news."
what I'm saying. Good morning. I'm
Yeah.
putting it in her private chat, you guys. I'm sorry. This is my first time, so I'll get used to it. But yeah,
I
that's
guess
what
that
I always
when you
said.
sign into the comments, and I guess that's where I guess that you got to do sign under the comments. So
Right.
if
That's
anybody
what
wants
I
to come
always
up,
said, that it's important to do natural consequences. Um, I realized that I was never given choices as a child, as a young toddler, as a teenager, as a young adult. Choices were not something that were readily available. So for me to have a choice between a donut and a pancake, that was never an option, right? To have a choice on wearing a red outfit or a blue outfit was
right,
never given to me. And I realized when I was raising my children that I was wanting to make sure that they became secure in making their own choices.
right,
Even if they were not the right choice, natural consequences would teach them that.
right,
So I taught parenting classes for many years, the STEP, through my internships. And I always found it interesting because it's a lot of work to teach your children language and how to communicate with you. It's not an easy step. It's easier to say children are to be seen and not heard. It's easier to backhand them when they, sass at you, or when they say something inappropriate, or when they're
exactly.
testing their boundaries with being respectful. I was raised yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir.
Yeah,
And I was always taught that respect is done by age. If it's anyone older than you, they automatically earn your respect. And I tore that down when my children were little bitty. I'm like, you ask questions to authority. You will get in trouble for asking questions, but if it's a question you want to ask, don't stop and stand your ground, even if it means you getting in trouble. Because I really thought it was important for them to learn that they had a voice at an early age. Now it caused me a lot of time in a principal's office because the
yeah,
teachers don't want to be challenged, or what they felt was being challenged. They wanted a complacent child to sit in that seat, do exactly what they want to do. And I remember a couple times with the teachers would call me, and they were like, Miss Buchanan, your son did this today in second hour. And I said, oh, okay. What did you do? Did you discipline him? Yes, I gave him detention, but I wanted you to know because I knew that you would do something when he got home. I said, that's where you're wrong. We can talk about how his day is, but if you disciplined him at school, I don't re-discipline him for something I wasn't a part of.
Right.
I,
Now,
I, I refused.
if I did do something like hit somebody or something like that, it might be a different, case, and I find out what had happened, or like if a kid hit them first, Like my kids came home, my oldest came home from school. He was in kindergarten, and he would come home really dismayed, and there was always kids that was throwing rocks at him. And the teacher, said, "Well, I'll fix their little red wagon." They continue doing that, but it still continued.
Hmm.
So even though I kept going to the teacher, then I had to take it higher up to a principal. And then she said, "Well, you should have told me." I'm like, "I did tell you, but I'm not going to wait till somebody kills my kid with a rock or puts out his eye or something like that. I'm
Or
not, but
destroys
I
his
don't need that
self-esteem.
harassment at school, being bullied like that.
Right. Right. Or just the comment, just, it doesn't have to be drastic. It can just be the fact that you're killing his self-esteem, that you're making it to where he questions whether or not he leaves the house every morning and what's going to happen to him that day.
Yeah, we send them off to school to, they're supposed to protect our kids. And you come home and they got bruises and marks on them, and it's like, what happened to you?
Hmm.
And so I was so mad, I was kind of like a mama there. And
Right.
at one time, I let my brother move in, and he had 5 kids. Him and his woman had 5 kids, but there was really hers. And he tried to do the same thing that my daddy did, which I don't know if y'all remember, like in my book, I talk about the lineup. So we had to line up like a military style, side by side, go down the go down from the first and start beating the first one, go down the second and keep beating, and then just go back to the beginning and start beating again. Well,
Hmm.
his kids did something bad, and see, he just said, "Well, your kids need to get out there so I can whip them too." I said, "My kids were not a part of this. This is my home, and
Hmm.
you are not going to do the same thing that daddy did to us. I forbid you to do that to my kids. However, you do your kids, that's a choice, but you're not going to have a say over discipline my child."
I know I remember while you were telling that story, the last time I allowed my parents to discipline my children, my son was in preschool and we weren't allowed to have newspapers or TVs or radios or any of information from the outside world. The Palm Beach Post donated a whole bunch of um, T-shirts to a school for you to put handprints on it and to make it.
Right.
And my son had made this really cool kindergarten type of T-shirt. And he walked into my mom and dad's house, right? And without thinking, he walked in front of me. My dad jumped up, took the T-shirt, and ripped it off of my 3-year-old son.
Oh, man.
And I said, and I looked at my dad and I was like, what did you just do? And he said, I don't allow anything from the Palm Beach Post to be in my house. You know that's of the devil, blah, 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 right? I
Wow.
lost my mind. I said, you will never touch my son again. That was a T-shirt he made from his own hands. And I didn't care where that T-shirt came from. He made it for him to wear. And
Right.
it was a huge fight. My parents looked at me and said, pack your kids, get your stuff, go to your house, don't come back until we're able to do what we need to do with your children. I didn't go back for a very long time. And it wasn't soon after that that I made my escape and was like, I've got to get out of here because what happened to me is about to rehappen to each of my children in a different way with my parents and the people of this church. The abuse
That's
that they did to
crazy.
children was insane. Now, looking back, I realize how bad it was, Darlene. But when I was growing up, being lined up against a wall, putting your hands against the wall and walking out as far as you can, and then them beating you with a leather strap, making sure that your hands didn't leave the wall. And if your hands left the wall, you would fall, but then you would have to put your hands back on the wall and get double beatings for dropping.
Wow.
But that's
You're
very
so
common.
strong. You're so strong sharing this stuff.
You know, once I
And so
started
I'm proud of
speaking,
you not doing this
thank
to
you.
your kids too. Like you stopped that cycle with you. You know, you ended it
Yeah.
there and you protected your kids. I am so proud of you, girl.
When I learned better, I did better. And there is no way for me to be authentic and speak truth to power unless people know that I was once there. I once did exactly what the church instructed me to do, or
Right.
the people around me, because the only people I had around me was the church. So I'm not trying to make this religious at all, Darlene. Just
Oh
understand
no,
that
no, no. Because
the
child abuse is in different ways. There's spiritual, there's
Mhm,
monetary, there's neglect, there's bullying. You know, there's so many forms of child abuse. You know.
mhm. You're right. And I always remember because I've been in trauma therapy, for the last month. Like, I've always been in therapy, but I've actually was like, let me do trauma therapy. And I noticed when I'm just talking to my therapist that my hands, when I get my nervous system can't regulate itself,
Uh-huh.
my hands will tremble like no other. I mean, they will just shake uncontrollably. And I'm always was curious. And then a voice came back to my head from my childhood. And I remember hearing this every day of my life. Everything you touch, you ruin.
Wow. And
Everything.
look, and a lot from my childhood. Also, that you're stupid, you're fat, you're ugly, you're retarded. And if I hear somebody else call like I'm stupid, you know, to themselves, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or something like that, I
Mhm.
just look at them, and then a lot of times, if I'm close to them, you know, like if they're a friend, I say, "Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. We done been beat down enough. We need to
Right.
pick ourselves up. We need to give ourselves credit, and we need to, I mean, give ourselves loving words. You know, all we hear is negativity. Why we want to continue bringing negativity today in our lives? And if people get mad at me because they'll say, "Well, you're beautiful," and I go, I don't know how to take it because I, you know, was always called fat, ugly, stupid, retarded, and beaten and kicked and knocked down. You know, for like my daddy would hit me in the head, and then the rest had to kick me all over my body while encircling me and started me. You're fat, kick, kick, kick. And he said, kick harder, kick harder. You're stupid, you're retarded. You know, kick, kick, kick. You're fat. And if you see pictures of me as a kid, I was no way fat. But
Mm-mm.
when you're one thing I want y'all to realize, please, if y'all got twins around, please don't compare them. Please don't. That's a really bad thing because my twin sister is so stigmatized that she's even tried to call the police and try to get me arrested to, you know, several years back. Just because, and she said, you need to arrest her because she told him, she said, I'm the prettier twin that she was, that I'm the fat and I'm the ugly and I'm the stupid and I'm retarded and I'm trouble. So she actually called the police trying to get me arrested. And then the police said, well, I'm sorry you had to endure whatever you had to endure. We could tell what kind of torment. We cannot even imagine, is what he said, the kind of torture that you probably went through as a kid when your own sister calls us trying to get you arrested.
Right. Exactly. And I always say this, Darlene, too, and people who have survived trauma, regardless of what trauma it is, right? I find we go to therapy to help us get us through rejection. Like, we know how to navigate rejection. We know what it feels like. We know the anticipation of walking into a room and knowing that people are not going to like us. That is our thoughts first and foremost. And I have been like saying this for the last couple of years. The bigger issue that we should honestly be asking our therapist is, how can I navigate being accepted? How do
Exactly.
I how do I go? You can't use the word love to me, because love is pain, love is manipulation, love is discipline, love is harsh, love is cruel. Love makes me cry. So you can't reach out to me and tell me, oh, I love you, because I was given a hug and molested 2 hours later. I was given a
Right.
hug and hit in the face at the same time. I was beaten. I was told, well, this hurts me worse than it hurts you.
That's BS, or they wouldn't have done it.
Exactly, exactly. It was power and it was control. And I realized going into therapy this time, I've looked at my therapist and I said, I need to know how to be okay with somebody looking at me and saying, I accept you.
Exactly. That's all I want is somebody to accept me.
I don't
Uh,
want
I
love
don't want to hear that I'm beautiful. I don't want to hear I'm cute. Oh, I really hate being called cute. That is cute and being
or
called doll.
nice or
Those two
kind.
words is really upsets me if they call me doll baby or doll or cute. I
Hmm.
mean, all of a sudden the red flags come out of everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Because
right.
that's what predators. They'll come up and
Exactly.
say she's so cute. She's such a doll.
Right.
No, it's when they traffic me and sold me to these men that come up and call me cute and doll baby, you think I will have a mark right there? I do basically, because and then my oldest son, said, "Mom, I'm going to allow um, people to call my daughter when if I have one, doll and cute and all this." Boy, until he got a daughter, and that's a different story. He changed his mind quickly. He said, "No, I'm not going to allow it either."
I believe that little girls, right? Well, let me digress a minute and finish my thought about the thing. But if we're taught that we're cute, we're beautiful, we're this, we're that, right? But we don't feel accepted. It's because those words that were being used were weaponized against us. So
Right,
instead of raising us to be healthy women of the future, we were raised to be scared of what may come out around the corner. And that is a way that they manipulated us and made sure that we stayed within their control without being able to explore the world through curious lenses and be able to open up to the world around us and say, you know what, I liked that feeling. So you can't use words like kind and nice and love with me. Words need to be something a little more. It needs to carry a little more weight. It needs to be able to say, I accept you, because then I understand what you're meaning by that word. But if you tell me you love me, I'm afraid of you.
yes,
I don't want someone to ever tell me again that they love me, because love is conditional and can be taken away. But acceptance is something that you have to choose to do. And for me, it becomes more unconditional.
yes. Don't you hate that? Y'all, anybody wants to come up in the box and stuff like that and chat with us, let me know. I'll be glad to drop a link to you.
Yes. And if I've missed anybody, hello, I'm Tamara. I'm known as Jezebel on my social media. Um, but there's a reason for that, you know.
Yes,
I was
there's
told
usually
I
a
was a
reason.
Jezebel. Every time I did something wrong, from the time I was like 5, I was a Jezebel. You're a Jezebel. If you do that, you're a Jezebel. If your dresses aren't long enough, you're a Jezebel. If your hair's not put up and, a Pentecostal bun, you're a Jezebel. Um,
Oh,
so,
that's that Christian, that's that spiritual thing that they was doing to
yep.
you to break you. No matter what you do, you're to be knocked down. Where you what? But guess what? They
Mhm.
were wrong about keeping you in with the church. As long, they said you continue doing that to a child and you break them, they're going to forever be with the church. No, you had a lot of fortitude, girl. Of we, yes,
Yes.
woohoo, go
Thank
girl.
you. I'm not sure where that strength came from, that inner feeling to actually have the courage to do what I did. Now, when I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know where that came from, because that was so out of character for me. And for most people who are changing a life of abuse or trauma and stepping out, that first step that you take is kind of like, oh, wait a minute, now what am I doing? I'm not quite sure where I'm supposed to go or how I'm supposed to do this, but all right, here we are, let's do it, right? So it's
And
just a matter of
and
one
don't you
step at a time.
and don't you think it's scary that when you get abused and then you get away from the abusive people, and here I was taught that you forgive and stuff like that, even though I got away from my stepmom, and see, I did not even know and remember at the time about her killing my first son, right? Okay, I did not even remember all that. A lot. I had so many blocks of memory, right? She even was homeless for a little while, and I opened my door to her living with us, and she brought her daughter, so with my stepsister, and her three kids. Then she brought a boyfriend, and he was supposed to work too, but we didn't like the fact about her having a guy there, because was Christian, we didn't think it was right. But the fact that what got me so mad was one day my stepsister, uh, several days in a row, she was making her kids grits after school. And that was from the one of the kids' daddies that had provided that for him. And my son went up to her. He came to me and said, "Mom, can I have some grits?" I said, "You have to ask her because it's her kids' stuff." So she went in there. He went there and asked her, "Can I have some?" And she said, "No." If she was joking, she would have turned around and done it, right? So she was not joking because she never did go ahead and make it. Well, the next day, I was feeding my kids the regular cereal, which my husband was the one that was buying all the groceries for everyone, with the exception of the grits. Okay, so my husband bought all the groceries, and my stepmom went there, started making biscuits and um, the smoked sausage, a little cut up. But my kids already had the cereal fixed, and they were sitting at the table. And my stepsister come in there and said, "There's no more cereal." I said, "Well, they got the last of the cereal." She said, "You take that away from your kids and you give it to my kids." And my kids were there eating their last bowl. And I said, "I'm not going to take out about my kids, that away from them to give to you." My stepmom said, "I said, give it to her kids." I said, "You're not taking it out of my kid's mouth." She said, "Well, I'm right here making biscuits and this sausage stuff." I said, "Well, make her kids eat that. My kids, you're not taking out of my kids' mouth. They already, my husband bought all those groceries, put in mine." But she thought she's going to come in there, my stepmom, and I was going to go under her rules and do whatever she says, and she was going to abuse me and violate me. No, man, you might do that what you want to of me, but you don't take out of my kid's mouth, okay? You're not going to do that. So I got mad, and my husband was sitting in a he was sitting in a chair over there, and in the living room, and he told me to calm down. And I said, I didn't say nothing at first. My whole body was trembling, shaking all over, because she wouldn't stop fussing at me and condemning me. Okay, and I said, "Well, you need to just leave. You're not welcome here no more." I know she didn't have a car, and my husband said, "You don't mean it? She could stay?" I said, "Well, you can leave with them then. If you don't, because you're not going to do something to my kids. You
Mm-hmm.
either sit there and you quiet, or you go with them." That's what I told him.
Right. Right.
"But you can might do anything you want to with me, right? But do not mess with my kids.
Mhm.
Do not." You know. That's when she threatened me. A couple of days later, she showed up. We sat outside. I never let her back in the house, right? So sat out there, and she said, like, "I'm sorry, da 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 da." And I said, "Well, you're not welcome back over here." She said, "Well, I'm gonna do to you, your oldest kid, what I did to your first kid." And I didn't even remember having a first kid at the time, but I just knew that that was a threat, right? So I knew something, and yeah, my son was getting off the school bus one time, and there was a van that pulled up behind the school bus. And the school bus, I stood in my youngest son was asleep in the house, so I tried to be in the barn lot, which was in between the house, and so I was right there for both my kids. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when my son got off the bus, the guy got out of the van and opened up the sliding door. I started running to him, "Run, run, run to me, run to me, run to me." So they were trying to kidnap my son. So,
It's horrific.
huh?
I said, that is just horrific.
Oh yeah. And so they jumped back in the van because me running towards him, my son running towards me is bringing a lot of attention to him, right? And I'm sure the bus driver overheard. I had a feeling that she pulled down and stopped, down the road, stopped the bus right there. At that time, she had walkie talkies where she could call somebody too, you know what I'm saying? So the next day, the same van pulled up behind the school bus. This time, when I was standing, I was at the bar line, but a little bit closer to the bus to be, because I didn't want them to uh, really grab. And that bus did not budge. It stayed right there. It noticed that van from the day before. And they even got another car where it was fixing to block them in. And they sat and they left and they never tried it again. But you talk about terrified and all this other kind of stuff. And what would the police done? Would they have believed me, or were they covered for these perpetrators? Since the cult is really bad over there, okay? Would they have stood up and helped me, or would they have allowed this to happen? So I didn't feel like I could trust the police to call them to tell them this went on.
And the other thing that the police do as well that I've noticed is that if nothing has been done, then nothing can be done. So they need to have evidence not of somebody sitting in their car, but actually doing something. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, wait a minute. If we come to you, there's something wrong.
See, but they were
Otherwise,
already
we'd have
telling
taken
me my
care of it
husband.
ourselves.
They were already telling me that my husband could beat me all he liked, to have black eyes, broken collarbones, and all this busted lip. And cops said they could hit you all he liked. So why would I think that they would protect me on this incident, right?
Right. Especially if it's like a baby and they're going to they're going to make all kinds of assumptions.
But I thank God for that bus driver, and I went up to
Yes.
her and I talked to her, and thanked her for doing that. She said, "Well, I recognize what he did the day before." She said, "And I got this person right behind was fixing to block him in, and I guess that guy had recognized that he was fixing to be blocked in, and so they were going to get him arrested." You know what I'm saying?
And then let's not even go to our laws, our courts, I'm sorry, our court system when it comes to children or when it comes to adults. The reason why I speak out now today about what happened to me as a child, I was 26 years old, sitting in a psychology class 1 year after escaping the cult when we were discussing child abuse, from incest to manipulation to discipline. And we're challenging the different thought processes of the individual, of each of my peers in the room on what their feelings were and what, we were having one of those psychology classes, right? And I remember being told that incest was illegal. And I started crying. I didn't know it was wrong. And by the time I'm strong enough now, most of the statutes of limitation are definitely in place in most states, right? But we don't get the opportunity to speak out, as a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old. Who do you go to? You're supposed to be able to go to the police, but if you go to the police with that information, then they come to the home and they see a very, like, quote unquote, godly Christian family. They think I'm making those up because I want to be a rebellious teen. And I vow that if anyone tells me they were abused, it is to my very soul, I believe them because I know what it feels like not to be believed, to speak out and not to be heard, to make sure that what you're
Hey,
doing
get to know.
counts. Hey,
I am so sorry. I'm going to invite get to know up here if he wants to get into conversation.
perfect.
Well, I am so proud of you. I'm sorry I had to run to the bathroom right quick. I missed
Oh,
part of
don't
what you were saying.
apologize.
Like I didn't want to interrupt, and I was like, but it hit
Just
and
go
hit.
ahead. Interrupt. interrupt. But that's why I do what I do now, because, you know, being raised in a very controlled religion, we didn't have internet or phones or computers or radios or newspapers, right? But if there's one little girl or one little boy out there that's scrolling in Facebook or on TikTok or through YouTube, and they come across something and they're like, huh, you don't have to be 26 to figure out that it's wrong. If you need a safe place, you can DM any person that is out here advocating against child abuse, and we'll make sure that you get the help you need. Promise you that. And we'll maintain a safe place for you while you figure out your journey.
Right. And see, I joined this place. I got to get the real name for it. Um, and I'll invite you over there too when I find out the name of it again. You know, it's in an email.
Hmm.
And I recommend people that's been abused to go over there. It's got a good community of people that's trauma. I started a group that's for child abuse, and I put the rest of the groups are open for people. Anybody could join.
Hmm.
But I felt like a lot of people like us, we might feel like we want to share it in private. We don't want the whole world to know if we got some certain secrets or something like this. So I put it as, you know, they try to join and then I accept or I don't accept. You know what I'm saying? I want the people to feel safe about coming in and being able to talk about whatever's going on with them, you know?
Exactly. And I understand that trauma made me what I am today.
Well, you know what? In a way,
But
think
trauma,
about it. Look what that is. Look how strong you are.
but that's what I was going to say. Trauma is not the essence of who I am. It is just
Exactly.
what I was. It's not who I am. I am a
Exactly.
firm believer of speaking truth to power, owning it. If you don't feel the need to forgive, people don't understand. You don't have to forgive. There is nothing that says that you're required to forgive your abuser. That is a patriarchy type of thinking. It doesn't mean that you're holding bitterness, doesn't mean that you're holding hate. It just means that you're allowing yourself to say, there are some things in this world that don't deserve forgiveness. It
Amen to that.
deserves
So,
us speaking
how to
out.
get to know? That says J2K. That's what means get to know.
Hi, get to know.
Hello, sweetheart. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I've been better, but I won't complain too much.
Oh, that's okay. If you
You
complain, I'm okay with it.
recently, I believe you recently got a book out there too, right?
Yep, I do. I do. It's
What
called
is the
Break the
name of it
Silence.
for everybody to know?
It's called it's called Break the Silence. It's a
Wow.
poetic journey through my life through abuse and where I'm at now with it and all those good things, you know.
That's funny that you say that. It's so like fantastic because I write poetry and I post it on my Facebook page. And so these um, poems that I write, I don't want to do like an autobiography detail for detail. So I'm going to put my poems in a timeline and then fill in my story in between those timelines.
I'm doing kind of the same thing. I'm doing
Hmm.
15-year blocks. So the first book's through the first 15 years of my life, and then the second one, which I'm currently working on, is from 15 to 30, and then the next one will be 30 to 45.
That's fantastic. I would love to
Would you like
read it. I
Would you like to hear
definitely.
one? It's available on Amazon right now.
Okay. I'll need for you to text it to me because I'm not able to move my
What?
screen around to do what I want to do.
He's my friend at Facebook, and I'll try to connect you two together at Facebook
Perfect.
and get to know. I want to have you back on here, since you know, also to tell your story and to promote your book.
Well,
Sweet.
I just have my poems together at the
But still,
moment. I've just
you
been
have
writing my
you
poems.
can show your camera if you got a copy of it where you can show people how your book looks.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Wow, that looks sharp.
That is nice.
That is really nice.
And you know what
Yeah.
I love about about social media, and I'm just going to say this. Honestly, if it wasn't for TikTok, right? If it wasn't for Facebook, I would have never have found my voice, because I started doing like living legacies to my children when when I do my TikToks. It's not for anybody else, but I realized that there's many stories from birth to 26 that my children don't know about me. There's
Yeah.
many things that they don't have any idea. They don't have pictures of me as a baby. They don't have pictures of what I looked like at graduation. They don't have pictures of what it looked like when I was riding my horse. They don't have any memories of that, or what the cult was actually like that I was raised in. So I found myself being able to find my voice by leaving like a living legacy to them, that this way, whenever they wanted to, they could kind of scroll back and see, and then take a moment, 10 minutes out of their lives, and actually say, oh, this was my mom.
Yes.
Nice.
And it's like with my birth mom, supposedly birth mom. um, she was the last time I spoke to her was around 2001, and she had asked me. I said, "I'm going to let bygones be bygones. I'm going to forgive you, whatever, right?" So I said, I wanted mother-daughter relationship, all that stuff in the past, whatever, right? But the very first words out of her mouth was, "Are you showing your naked body to men or prostituting yourself?" I said, "No, Mom." Here I was about 38, 39 years old at this time. I said, "No, Mom, I'm an adult. I've got a choice." She said, "Well, you were born to do that. I taught you how to prostitute, all this, and that's what you were born for. You got to show men your naked body and you got to prostitute yourself. That's your purpose in life." I said, "No, Mom, I've got a choice. I'm an adult now." She said, "I wish I would have killed you when you were a baby like I wanted to." And I went click. So anyway, I was hearing from other siblings and stuff, you don't want to let your sons come around mom because she was telling, like, if you brought your daughter over there to meet her, like my son had a daughter, she would start saying, "Well, you're sexually abusing your daughter." So he would, and I tried to protect my son from that, shield him, and so then he got mad at me after she died, said, "I wish I would have got to know her," and I'm like, "Really? Are you sure about that?" Yeah,
Right.
I'm
Now,
doing
what I
it
did when my
y'all,
children, when each of my children turned 18, I sat down with them and I said, you're an adult now. And I understand me taking you away from grandparents, nieces, cousins, aunts, and uncles was a very hard thing. But I'm also okay with the fact if you go and check it out and explore, and then come up with your own conclusions. I feel I've raised you to be strong enough individuals for you to be able to handle going back to the cult and making peace with yourselves.
Yeah,
As
I
parents,
do.
that's very hard to do, because it's like, here, big world, now I'm no longer responsible. But on the other
Right,
hand, I knew that I needed to do that for their healing and for their trauma, for what had happened in our past,
right.
to
And so
perhaps help
I,
them heal.
I sort of did similar in a way because my sons, when they became adults and everything, they said, "Mom, do you mind if I become friends with your siblings and stuff like that?" I said, "You can do whatever you want to, just as long as y'all don't try to, if they try to bash me or whatever, don't bring me into the equation. Y'all can be family and stuff like that, but I don't want it to split up our relationship. Please just
Mhm.
don't let that happen. And that was just a little thing. And then they became friends with him, and they ended up blocking my family after all,
Yeah,
because they couldn't stop bashing me to them. It
that's
was
what
like I wasn't
happens.
bringing my family up to them. I was right there treating my kids, everyday type of thing, and I wasn't bringing up my family to them, so but my family kept bashing me. So, how are you about that? I really respect, get to know y'all because he brought up his kids and he trained them in the way what to look out for predators and everything. He taught them in a way, that was really good.
And it's important
Yep.
for us to be able to do that. It's important for us to show ourselves grace, dignity, and respect as we walk this journey, because without social media,
Okay,
I would have known there was other people around me that were
okay.
like me.
Uh,
Oh, go
I'm with
ahead,
you on that
Tamara,
Nicole.
too.
Tamara, he wants to read a poem really fast before he has to go to physical therapy. I just seen him say that.
I just saw it too. Read away. Thank you.
Okay, this is called Whispers of Innocence. In the dawn of life, where dreams are pure, a world of wonder, hearts secure, eyes wide open and filled with light, innocent dances day and night. But shadows creep as time goes by, a silent thief beneath the sky. The laughter fades, the tears begin, as innocence wears thin. The child's trust so easily betrayed, in a world where promises often fade. The gentle heart, once unscarred, now bears the weight of wounds hard. In the playgrounds of youth where joy should reign, echoes of sorrow, whispers of pain. The games of life, no longer fair, innocence lost beyond repair. Yet in the depths of every soul, a spark remains, a distant goal. To reclaim the light, to heal the scars, to find a path back to the stars. For though the world may be unkind, a glimmer of hope we still can find. An
Hey, can
act
you
of
turn your
love.
mic? Can you turn your mic up? Somebody said they can't hear you.
Okay. Um, I don't have that option to do that. I'll just speak louder. You
Okay.
want me to start it over? You want me to
She
start it
can
over?
hear you now. She said,
Okay.
"Yeah, yeah." Start all over so she can hear it all.
In the dawn of life, where dreams are pure, a world of wonder, hearts secure, eyes wide open and filled with light, innocent dances day and night. But shadows creep as time goes by, a silent thief beneath the sky. The laughter fades, the tears begin, as innocence wears thin. A child's trust so easily betrayed, in a world where promises often fade. The gentle heart, once unscarred, now bears the weight of wounds hard. In the playgrounds of youth, where joy should reign, echoes of sorrow, whispers of pain. The games of life no longer fair, innocence lost beyond repair. Yet in the depths of every soul, a spark remains, a distant goal. To reclaim the light, to heal the scars, to find the path back to the stars. For though the world may be unkind, a glimmer of hope we still can find. In acts of love, in words sincere, innocence lost but not disappeared. So let us cherish this fragile light to protect the young with all our might. For in their eyes we see the truth, the precious gift of untainted youth. Whispers
Wow,
of Innocence.
That is
that
really
is
good.
really good. I'm trying to look that up. Like in my book, you have wrote a poem for me also, and I
Yep.
let me read that to everybody. This is how well that he writes. Shattered Innocence, inspired by the book by Darlene J. Clark. Written by my survivor friend. Once there was a garden fair, untouched by storms, free from despair. A child danced the fields of grace, dreams of light in every space. But shadows crept where light once lay, stains of sorrow marked the day. A fragile trust was torn apart, a silent scream within her heart. The world she knew turned cold and stark, the laughter dimmed, replaced by dark. Let's see,
That's
each whispered word, each stolen glance became the thief of her innocence. Yet in the shards, resilience grew, a fire burned where tears once flew. She bore her pain, her scars, her truth, a woman forged from broken youth. Her story speaks of wounds concealed, of battles fought, a strength revealed. Through innocence may fade, transform, from ashes rises the fiercest form. To those who listen, her voice will say, light can find the darkest way. Though innocence may shatter and part, courage will reveal the heart. See how awesome that he is with writing?
yes, yes.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
was gonna share one.
So I think a lot of people, we need to get your book out there and make it more known. So I would love to have you on. Just let me know what day and the time, and I'll be glad to have you on. And Tamara, you did the same thing. But next week I'm not free because I don't know my hours for that class that's supposed to start next week. Y'all know about the class for next week? What I got to do?
No, I
I
don't.
don't.
Y'all know that I was sex trafficked, right?
Right.
Yep.
So anyway, I got a scholarship to a human trafficking thing. So I'm going to get it's going to just be a week long, and I'm going to have a certificate in human trafficking.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, so
Nice.
That
I
is
won't be
so
available next
important.
week just because of that. So
Yes. But it's so important for these venues and platforms to be able to come together. And I don't have to explain to you, Darlene, or to get to know you how difficult it was or how awful it was. You already know. So it's like that part of me just sitting with a friend having coffee, and I don't have to explain the whole history. You know.
exactly. Can you get to know? Can you explain to the people, like I was boasting on you, how you presented to your kids on the awareness about sexual abuse?
Yeah. Yeah. So my wife and I are both survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And we decided when we found out that she was pregnant, we literally sat down and had a talk about serious stuff. And one of the things that we were both serious about was protecting our kids. And for us, the most important thing for us was keeping them safe from being sexually abused. And how we did that is from the moment we thought that they could understand the words that were coming out of our mouths, literally, we spoke to them about this. We still speak to them. My son's almost 19 years old. My daughter's almost 17 years old. And we still talk to him about this kind of stuff. Um, Not only did it make him open and aware of the horribleness that's in this world, it also opened up a door of communication for all of us that my kids talk to us about anything. There's no there's nothing too embarrassing, there's nothing too horrible, there's nothing too bad for them not to speak to us about. And I just think that communication with your children at a very young age about this problem is a major key factor in keeping them safe. Even if a predator did get to them, I know that we instilled enough knowledge in their brains for them to know that it's okay to come and talk to us about that it happened.
Right.
You know, so um, that's my spiel. That's what it is for us. So, and
And you
for us we know we broke that cycle.
exactly. And that is so fantastic that you say that because so many of us are so afraid to speak to our children, even though we
Yeah.
know those things happen to us. We'd
Yep.
rather like keep it internally than
And
speak
Get
see,
to
out
and I'm
know.
loud.
and
Can you
see,
get to
and
know?
see, and
Can
I'm
you
different. I'm different because I knew that not speaking about it would make them more vulnerable to becoming a victim, and being a victim of sexual abuse is something I wouldn't wish upon anybody. So
I totally agree. What I was saying is that there's many, right, that are hesitant. Will say
Oh
things
yeah.
like, "Oh, don't let them touch you there," but we're not going to be able to express to our children at that young of an age. And I think it's important for us to take those
Hey, I
stereotypes
gotta
out.
go. I gotta go. My
okay?
counselor's calling. I gotta have counseling.
Oh, bye.
Okay. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you for coming in.
And how
These
long
are
do you
just
go for? Because I have another appointment.
well, just whenever people want to come in. But if anybody wants to come in and talk, they can feel free. But if you got an appointment, you can go whenever. I am so glad that you came in and talked.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
that I think I need to do this like a couple times a week so that we could just come in here amongst and have a voice. You know what I mean?
I agree 100%. I appreciate the opportunity to come on any platform and speak against the issues and the abuse that happens to our babies.
Yeah. So let me know what day and time you
I
could be
will.
available to be able to, even if it's one day this week or just
Okay.
let me know. I'll be glad to have you on because I think a lot of people will love to hear your story.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate that. Appreciate the opportunity to be on this
Thank you so much.
platform.
You're quite welcome. Lots of love,
Bye,
and
Sandra.
you're always welcome here.
Thank you. And I'm so
And
glad that you found me on Facebook. I just think
yeah,
that's fantastic.
and I was going to ask Eric. I had wrote him. Could you send give me the link to your YouTube so people can follow you? And he had to go though, so maybe he'll get another opportunity to come in here and add that.
Oh, and that's fine if you send him to me as well through my messenger or through Facebook. That'll be perfect.
Yeah, what Eric does, I want to tell y'all, he does a lot of people let people know about things, and then he does trivia games and such, and he does karaoke, and he does tie dye. So he'll get on there and do tie dye type of stuff. So
Oh, that'll be
uh,
fun.
yeah,
Thank you
so
for
he
like
does.
introducing me to more people. I appreciate that.
Well, you're quite welcome, and thank you for approaching me, and send me a friend's request. I wanted to ever do.
I am so honored, right, to be amongst people who are like-minded that know that our futures depend upon how strong our babies are.
That's right. And people say, "But you telling your story. I bet you writing your book was therapy to you, but it wasn't. The only
Yeah.
therapy I get from this, Tamara, is knowing that if I help somebody out, you know, that's the only therapy I know. Okay,
Right.
it's not just writing my book. It's not helping me. You know what I'm saying? But
Yes.
knowing that it's actually helped some other people, that's what my therapy is.
Yes. I totally agree and understand that.
Well, thank you
But
so much for coming in, and I hope that you have a great day.
you
And you look
too.
beautiful.
So do
And
you. Thank you.
well, thank you so much. God bless you.
Much love. Bye-bye.
Much love. Bye bye. Well, everybody, I hope that y'all have a fantabulous day and see y'all again sometime soon. God bless.